I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Sharief, Ishaq talking Saints and Senior Bowl 15 minutes from right now. We'll talk Tigers with Glen West at 1:30. Garrett Nussmeier was on with the boys this morning from the Senior Bowl and kind of have some reaction to what he had to say. Got a story up at LouisianaSports.net on that right now. Sam Spiegelman from Rivals at 2 o'clock. Joe Brady's the new head coach of the Bills. We'll talk about that. So plenty to do. Lock us in for the next 2 hours. Let's get it started the way we do every single day with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
You know, there was a time where this was among the most fascinating times in the college football calendar. It's not anymore, but it was. When you were approaching that first week in February, you knew National Signing Day was afoot. And it was rumors, and it was visits, and it was crystal balls, and it was Twitter posts, and it was the Bayou Bash, and it was ESPNU's 24 hours of coverage. Like, it was a massive deal. And it's not anymore because everybody signs in December. LSU, as it stands right now, is set to receive one signature coming up next week. But in the news was LSU's signing class for 2026 today, because the folks at Rivals put out their final and most updated 300. It included some new 5-stars, some shuffling of positions, and this is where the class will ultimately rest, according to the folks at Rivals. Now, you still got the folks at 24/7 who do it, and you still got ESPN, and they didn't put anything out that was updated today. So this is just Rivals creating its own news with the On3 brand. But I still found it noteworthy as far as LSU is concerned, because these are guys you're bringing into the program. And I stand by this. It's not even close to the only way to accumulate talent. But I do see significant benefit in adding Will Campbell to your program from the high school ranks. I see significant benefit in adding a player like Whit Weeks. I see significant benefit in adding DJ Pickett. I think having Harold Perkins here for 4 years is a good thing. Same thing goes for Harlem Berry. Like, I think getting really good high school players is important. It's not as important as it once was. No one would argue against that. You can now go into the transfer portal. LSU signed 41 kids in the transfer portal, okay? It makes it hard for freshmen to get to the field really quickly, and you do have to operate with the understanding that the freshmen who come in very well could bounce immediately out. Lance Hurd comes to mind. But I think there's value in getting really good high school players who could have a 3 or 4 year impact on your program. And LSU is a place where you can do that as high a level as you can anywhere. And I do believe that Lane Kiffin saw significant value in that. Now, if you're an Ole Miss fan, you want to push back and say, it doesn't matter. High school kids, probably going to bounce after 1 year. They're not going to help you next year. You replace them in the portal. Like, what does it matter? And that's a discussion you can have, and I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer to it. I feel comfortable in my assertion that you got to blend the two together, and that having 3 and 4 year high school players is very important. But to what degree that importance is, I think that's up for debate. But for LSU's class, you know it's small, right? Small, 15 kids. Because You had a coach fired in October, and then it was evident that that offensive staff was going to move on, and you had some decommitments here and there, and it was going to be a small class in a coaching transition. But you signed 15 kids, and as you look at the final Rivals rankings, Lamar Brown comes in at number 10 player in the country according to Rivals, number 1 player in Louisiana, number 1 player at his position, which they've got labeled as defensive line, number 1 player in the country there, Lamar Brown, 5-star. Richard Anderson, 5-star. Number 2 player in the state, number 3 defensive lineman. So 2 of the top 3 defensive linemen in the country, according to Rivals, in your class. And then the biggest mover by a long shot in LSU's class, which actually surprised me a little bit today. Your third 5-star in this class is Corey Barber. And I would not be surprised if many of you listening did not even know who Corey Barber was. There are plenty of you that do, but plenty that don't. Corey Barber is a wide receiver from Alabama, the state of Alabama, not the school. Talking high school kids. From the state of Alabama. And when Lane Kiffin came in, he looked at LSU's class. He looked at some players that were committed to him at Ole Miss, and I think he had some conversations. And you pretty quickly saw Kenny Darby from Bossier decommit from LSU. And immediately following, Darby out at wide receiver from Airline, Corey Barber in. He had been committed to Ole Miss. All of a sudden now he's committed to LSU. And Rivals moved him up to the number 28 player in the country. Number 3 wide receiver in the country. Number 2 player in the state of Alabama. He's in LSU's class. So 3 5-stars in this class for LSU. Lamar Brown, Richard Anderson, and Corey Barber. All 3 in the top 28 players in the country. Deuce Gerald's number 108 nationally. Trenton Henderson, number 144 nationally. What that means is those 2 guys round out that defensive line class that now has 4 defensive linemen in this class in the top 144 in the country as far as overall players go. And you're talking about 4 guys in the top 20 on the defensive line. Brown is 1, Anderson's 3, Deuce Gerald number 11 on the defensive line, and then Trenton Henderson is actually an edge, so a different category. He's the number 20 edge player, a 4-star. This class has 3 5-stars and 7 4-stars. That's 10 of your 15 players in this class are either a 5-star or a 4-star. No one signed more 5-stars according to Rivals than LSU. In fact, LSU had the most 5-star signees amongst the Rivals rankings. You've got, as I mentioned, the 4-stars, Deuce Gerald's, Trenton Henderson, Bryson Martinez, the big offensive tackle from over at EA and Gonzalez. Haven Finney comes in. He is a 4-star. He is the number 24 corner in the country, but that's a guy that Corey Raymond has identified for a long time from out in the state of California. You bring him into the class. He joins what is a relatively thin cornerback room. Like, you got Pickett, you got Woodland, Jakeem Jackson comes back, you got Aiden Anding, and then, like, you're a little bit thin beyond that at corner. So Haven Finney, who is a reclassifier, comes in. Another wide receiver, Braden Allen, is a 4-star in this new Rivals rankings. He was a 4-star entering. That's the one who was considering Ole Miss, was considering Oklahoma. Then Lane Kiffin got the job at LSU. The previous LSU offensive staff was not going to bring him in. This one wanted to. Braden Allen flips to LSU. He joins the fold at wide receiver. Jabari Mack, a 4-star by Rivals, the number 39 wide receiver in the country, number 8 player in the state of Louisiana. LSU lands him to go with what is a pretty impressive wide receiver haul. And then you got Isaiah Washington, who is the final 4-star in this class, a 3-star by ESPN and 247. 1-3 and Rivals like him a little bit more. They've got him as a 4-star, number 11 player in the state of Louisiana, number 25 player at safety in the country. They have Aiden Hall as a 3-star in these. Hall is a 4-star by 24/7 and a 4-star by ESPN, but Dakar safety is a 3-star according to Rivals. So is Dez Ellis, big Franklin Parish corner, 6'2", played everywhere there at Franklin Parish in Winsboro. And then the lowest ranked players in this class are actually the 2 guys that LSU got from Ole Miss's class, aside from Barber. J.C. Anderson, the big 6'6", 230-pound tight end, is a 3-star. And then Ryan Moret, interior offensive lineman from Miami, another 3-star. These are two guys that Ole Miss had in their class. Lane Kiffin goes to LSU. Those two guys flip. So if you look at the guys that Lane Kiffin essentially inherited, you're looking at a star-studded class. And then he supplemented it. And I still went and checked the rankings. As far as team rankings go, LSU is down the list because of the number of commits that they got. USC signed the top class in the country. They have 35 players in that class. 35. I mean, that includes 13 3-stars in that class, 2 5-stars, and then 24 stars. LSU only had 17 kids total in this class when you count the guys that are committed. And when you look at the average rating of the players and you sort it by that way instead of the class score, which is just going to take because you have a lot of players, LSU's class, which is 11th in the country by Rivals, is 2nd in the country in terms of average player rating, just behind Oregon. So you've got a class that's got a lot of really good players in it. You just don't have a lot of players. But I think it's interesting that On 3 pegged Barber as a 5-star recruit. You know that Lane Kiffin and that offensive staff have a really good eye for offensive talent. They've done a lot offensively without a ton of first-round picks, without a ton of 5-star recruits. They know what they're looking for. Maybe there's a little bump involved that the On 3 folks look at the staff and go, well, if they think something of him, we'll think a little bit more of him. Those things are subjective anyway. But it's a pretty good class, especially at the top, to sign 3 5-star recruits in a year where you are having a coaching transition. I think that is pretty solid. There is no guarantee whatsoever any of these guys ever make an impact at LSU. I'm aware of that. I'm not naive enough to think that all these guys are going to be 4-year starters for LSU and be first-team All-Americans. But like I said at the top of the show, I think there is real use in getting high-level high school players, and I think that LSU offers you the ability to do that. I think that's a difference from where Lane Kiffin has come from, and we'll see if it, in fact, pays off. I didn't look and see where Ole Miss class ranked as far as average player rankings, but I can sure find it pretty quick. They are, that's not in order. I have to count. Let's try. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20th is where Ole Miss comes in as far as average player ranking. When you look at the entirety of the class, where LSU ranks 11 among all the programs in college football. I'd tell you what Ole Miss was if my page wasn't just frequently loading. Now it's not. Ole Miss comes in at number 25 as far as class ranking. So that's kind of what you would expect. LSU close to the top 10, Ole Miss hanging around 20 to 25. Transfer portal's been more important to Ole Miss than high school recruiting for a long time. We'll see if that continues under Pete Golding or not. At LSU with Lane Kiffin, they're going to focus on the state of Louisiana. They're going to focus on trying to get 4- and 5-star kids where they need help on the roster. They go in the portal. They're pretty well showing they can do that. So I just thought a cool story, and that's a look at the Rivals rankings. I'll get some thoughts from Sam Spiegelman coming up in 45 minutes about exactly why there was big movement and what he thinks of this class as a whole. But the new Rivals top 300 is out. LSU 3 5-stars, 2 players in the top 18 in the country. You can check it out over there on Rivals. We'll talk to Sam Spiegelman coming up in 45 minutes. All right, when we come back, Saints Senior Bowl. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Go check out Marucci. What a gem here in Baton Rouge. We told you about the Hitter's House. You can go in there and take hacks. How about also taking a campus tour? Going to see where the official bat of Major League Baseball is made. Started in a shed in 2004. They've come a long way in 22 years. They've come to the point where they're making 1,200 bats a day in a world-class facility that's right here in Baton Rouge. So if you've got a youth baseball team, youth softball team, a class, group of friends, want to just take the family or go yourself, go see Marucci, where they're making the official bat of Major League Baseball. You can find tickets at maruccisports.com/campus-tour. Just click the campus tour button there and bring your youngsters. Let them take some hacks. Let them see this gym that started in a shed in Baton Rouge and is now the mecca where they make bats for the pros, make them for all over the world. It's maruccisports.com/campus-tour. Check them out, maruccisports.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Say the draft starts in Mobile. That's this week, the Senior Bowl. Our guys, Matt Flynn, Jake Hester, there every morning from 7 to 10. Got 2 more shows there this week from Mobile. They're checking out practices, have some great interviews. Talked to Garrett Nussmeier today. And the Saints certainly take the Senior Bowl quite seriously based on proximity. And now got some guys on staff actually coaching this year. Sharief Ishaq covers the black and gold for WDSU down in New Orleans. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Sharief, how we doing?
I'm doing well, Hunt. I will say that there's some kind of background interference going on
with me and you.
Right now.
So can you hear an echo?
Yeah, there we go. We're good now. I was hearing a different program. We're good now. We're good.
Okay. Well, it happens. All right, we're good. So how seriously do the Saints take the Senior Bowl?
All right, we're good.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can definitely hear you now. There's a lot going on.
How seriously do the Saints take the Senior Bowl?
Very seriously, very, very seriously, because they really do a lot of their draft process, and sometimes their selecting comes via the draft process. So, I mean, the Senior Bowl process. So I think that the contingency is out there. We're going to speak to them tomorrow with Jeff Ireland, but I think that like most of their damage is usually done via of the Senior Bowl week. They've selected quite a few players over the years. Thanks to what's going on in Mobile. So I think that will continue through this year's Senior Bowl.
Yeah, he took 5 last year. What do you want to hear from Jeff Ireland?
I truly want to hear that we're not drafting an offensive or defensive lineman. Really, I mean, I know they're not going to tip their hand, but I truly would like to hear them say, "Look, we want to build this team around Tyler Shuck. We have to find him some players, some playmakers that will help him succeed even more moving forward." And I understand that the offensive line is very important, but look at the playmakers at the end of the year. No disrespect to all those guys, but the final game of the year, he was playing with guys you never heard of. And I understand injuries happen, but you have to, at some point in time throughout this draft process, even if it's in Senior Bowl week, we got to hey, look at some of these receivers, tight ends, running backs. We've got to get Tyler some players. So I kind of hope they tip their hand a little bit and say, look, yeah, we need to get in some playmakers. I understand that we've always done our due diligence in the trenches, but we'd like to see something out there for Tyler.
Jeremiah Love has been a polarizing topic in Saints land these days. Some folks really want to do that. Some folks think taking a running back in the top 10 is nuts. What do you think about it?
He's my pick. He's been my pick for the last, month and a half.
Okay.
I mean, look what he could do. I mean, 35 touchdowns the last 2 seasons. I think he had at least 1,200 yards rushing the last 2 seasons. He can catch the ball, big guy, runs between the tackles. I mean, that's what you want. You want somebody who's explosive. I don't know how to compare him, and I understand you don't want to draft a running back inside the top 10, but I think it's worked well for the Falcons, even though they're a disaster of a franchise. It's worked well for it did work well for the Giants when they drafted Saquon Barkley, and look what he's doing in Philadelphia. And I understand that it's a risk. It's a risk that you take, but I think that's an important part to the offense. I mean, you can get by with Devin Neal and Estime, and I don't know about Kendre Miller if he remains, what his path is going to be if he can't stay healthy. I mean, but you need to find that dual threat running back who's going to be the guy after Alvin Kamara retires or leaves the Saints.
Do you recall this time last year there being any buzz on Tyler Shuck and the Saints, or is that something that generated a little bit later? I know that Shuck was at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, there was some, not much, but it didn't pick up until you got closer to the draft. You start hearing from the national media and how the executives at the Saints really like him. I think Louis Riddick was the first to jump on the wagon, saying the Saints are big fans of Tyler Shuck. And don't be surprised if you see the Saints draft him at some point. And he was right. I mean, the Saints were right, and a lot of us were wrong. And so the buzz started getting hot and heavy there, as we got probably a week within the draft. And that's just how it works. You don't want to tip your hand, obviously, because you got a lot of these players other teams really are coveted or going after, and then that's just the smart move.
Have you heard any? I mean, you get a lot of Jeremiah Love in the mocks. You get a lot of Jordan Tyson in the mocks. Is there another player or two that you see cropping up that we're going to start talking about a little bit more as we inch toward April?
I don't know if he's going to drop to number 8, but offensive lineman from Miami, Francis Mauigoa.
Yep.
he's solid, and of course we know the Saints love offensive linemen. And, if he drops, I mean, it'd be tough for them to pass on him, and that's the one name you keep hearing. Reuben Bain, his teammate on the other side of the ball. I don't know how he's going to translate to the NFL, but man, if he plays like that, like he did throughout the playoffs and even throughout this entire season, he's going to be fine in the NFL. I don't care about arm length. I think the guy is explosive. He can get in the backfield. He can disrupt. He can create some havoc, sacks, TFLs. He'd be a solid guy. But I think it's time to move off of those type of names just for once and do the right thing, do the playmakers. But those are the two names I've seen: Bain and Maui Noah, and maybe even Caleb Downs. I mean, he wouldn't be a bad pick, honestly. I know he's not a guy in the trenches, but if he falls to you, I mean, it's tough to pass up on a player like Caleb Downs who can affect your secondary in many different areas of your secondary.
This will be a discussion probably for March, but before we get into like significant scouting of players, I'm curious about philosophy, and we've seen the Saints handle the salary cap and free agency a little bit differently over the last 2 years in what kind of feels like a reset, and then you've got a different situation with your quarterback. Is there any chance they could trade off that pick?
Mickey Loomis laughed about that during the press conference he held once the season came to an end.
Okay.
This would be the year to do it. I mean, this would be the year to do it. I mean, if they're thinking about continuing to build a team in a cheap way and wait until next offseason to really become big spenders, this might be the draft to drop back from 8 to 13 or 8 to 14, pick up a couple extra picks and continue to build your team through the draft so you don't have to pay a lot of these players. There's always a chance. It's been a while since they've done it. It's close to 20 years since they even, I think it was 20 years, maybe 07 when they actually moved back.
Yeah.
So it's been a while, man. I mean, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time for Mickey and Jeff to actually do it, knowing that they're still a year away from having really good money to mess with and get some players. But that doesn't stop them from going in there and doing some small signings, but I'd be careful how I spend this season and wait till next year.
I missed that laugh that he had. Like, was it a "there's no chance we're doing that" laugh, or like I wouldn't tell you, or like, yeah, I always get this question? Like, what did you sense when he laughed at the question?
The laugh felt like a little bit different than past laughs. It felt like a you know what, maybe, just maybe this year, you know, we have our quarterback. Why should we be spending all of our money right now when we could possibly move back? That's not bad, guys. That's not bad type of laugh, you know?
It's just, I mean, that's the time of the calendar we're in. And if they're going to have these press conferences where, of course, general managers and head coaches are not going to tip their hand at how they're going to manage a roster because they've got to get into negotiations and all that kind of stuff, like, you're going to end up in our position then analyzing non-answers and laughs. And that's, I guess, where we are in the calendar.
Welcome to the month of January, man.
Exactly.
That's what we get. We get those nervous media laughs. Those are my favorites. The media laughs are always get me in press conferences. I'm like, and I'm sure Mickey's like, look at these guys. Listen to them laugh at me.
Anything else that you are curious to hear from Ireland tomorrow, other than like, hey, what are you going to do with your first round pick, and maybe a thought on the salary cap, or maybe a thought on where their perceived weaknesses are?
I want to know if Kellen and Brandon Staley and the rest of the coaching staff, so especially Kellen, will be even more involved this time around, because they hired him after the Senior Bowl last year. It was after the Super Bowl,
right?
For obvious reasons. I want to know how much more involved will he be this year, because I think he had his footprints on last year's draft. I want to know, like, if he's going to have even more say-so on, hey, we need this guy. I want this guy. This is the guy I want. Because at times, Sean Payton made those picks. Those are the guys that Sean wanted back in the day. And you can still see that happening in Denver, the way he's drafting. So I need to know if Kellen's going to have even more say-so in this draft process. I mean, that's a big question. You want to know if your head coach is going to be allowed to draft his pieces.
Do you think he's earned that in 1 year?
I think he has earned a little bit of say-so. And I'm just saying, I think he did have some say-so in last year's draft, because some of those picks look a little different to me. I mean, yes, I know they needed a quarterback, but I think that was his quarterback that was drafted last year. So he picked Tyler Shuck. So I think if they trusted him with that, they're probably going to give him a little bit more trust.
we'll see. Curious to hear what the whole Saints brass has to say later this week in Mobile. We'll talk about it next week. Thanks, Sharief.
All right, Hunt, you'll be catching me hopefully in San Francisco when you call me next week at 2:30 Central Time. Hopefully.
Headed to the Super Bowl. Love to hear that, too. All right, Sharief Ishaq, WDSU down in New Orleans covering the Saints. A big week for the black and gold in Mobile, and we'll hear from the Saints brass down there on the Gulf Coast a little bit later on this week. All right, Glen West talking Tigers next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Short drive from Baton Rouge. If you're up in Baker or in Feliciana's, maybe over in Point Capee. It's a quick drive for you as well to Highway 61 in St. Francisville, where you can find Fabry Chevrolet. Changed ownership October 1st. Been rocking and rolling for 3 months now. You know what you're going to get with the Fabry family. They've been here for 35 years. You're going to get a great service experience. You're going to get a great buying experience. You're going to get great customer service. You can get the Chevy Silverados. You can get the Chevy Tahoe. Get the Chevy Suburban as well. Maybe looking at the GMCs, Sierras, Yukons, Denali's. They're all on the lot, new and certified pre-owned. Go ahead and check it out online, FabryChevrolet.com. Make that short drive up to St. Francisville on Highway 61. Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville, or online at FabryChevrolet.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Well, black and gold talk. We'll switch it over to purple and gold now. Glen West, senior editor at Go 24/7, with us on Tuesday. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Glenn, how we doing?
Doing great, Hunt. How about yourself?
Doing all right. Let's start with basketball here briefly. Tigers go 0-2 last week. 2 tough road environments, 2 good opponents, and had a chance on Saturday and couldn't quite get it done. Where do they sit now at 1-6?
I mean, they're in win now mode for the rest of the season. Essentially, there's really no room for further error here. I do think that these last 11 games do offer LSU an opportunity to potentially make a run if they're able to put it together. But it's going to be really tough. I mean, they got to get De'Don Thomas back into the swing of things to where he's consistently contributing. You can tell that there's a difference in the way that they play offensively when he's out there. But he, needs to impact the scoring column a little bit more, needs to be a little bit more efficient. And I just think he just needs to be out on the floor a little bit more. And hopefully that stuff will be able to come. But, here over the last 11 conference games, they have 10 quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities. So they technically have, enough opportunities here if they can win enough games to kind of claw themselves back into this picture a little bit more. But it's going to be tough because you really can't afford much more room for error. And this schedule is a little bit more manageable here, but they've got a lot of work to do.
Is it reasonable to suggest that they can do it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that you got to take this team what it is at face value right now, and they haven't been able to close some of these games. I mean, I think they've done a good job of being able to claw themselves back into games, but they just haven't been able to finish. And I think a big part of that is the defense. I mean, they for these first 8 conference games, they've had a half where they've given up 50 points, and you're not going to win very many games when you're consistently giving up that many points on the defensive side of the ball. So they've got to shore up defensively. They've got to become a more physical team on the interior. They've got to hit some more shots from the perimeter. But they have some talent on this team, and they've been able to claw themselves back. But to say that they're absolutely going to be able to claw themselves back into the season, I think is probably a bit naive right now. You got to see them win a few games and kind of get the ball rolling a little bit before you can kind of make more of those kinds of assumptions.
In almost 4 years of basketball, if I ask you for the identity of Matt McMahon's program, what answer would you give me?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm scratching my brain right now. I think they're a team that wants to be a fast-paced offense. They want to be able to push the ball up the floor. They want to be able to score pretty quickly, I would imagine. I mean, I think that they've had teams and they've had offenses that just have not had the point guard ingredient figured out. And I think they finally had that, that point guard this year with Thomas, but him missing these 5 games in SEC play has just been a real struggle. And so, they want to be a team that I think is high pressure, high intensity on the offensive side of the ball, and is putting pressure on the rim and putting pressure on the perimeter. But when you don't have your floor general, it just makes things a lot tougher. And now that they have had him back for a few games, you've seen it with the offense. It's starting to come together a little bit more with hanging 80 points at Arkansas. And but they've got so much work to do on the other side that it's going to be really tough for them to win games if they can't improve defensively.
Last one on basketball. This week you got a home game against Mississippi State, a road game at South Carolina. What's your projection on wins and losses there?
Yeah, I think this is a manageable 2-game stretch here. I think you have to go 2-0. You got to start trying to find some ways to get yourself some momentum here. Mississippi State is statistically one of the worst offenses and defenses in the conference right now. They have a pretty dynamic duo with Josh Hubbard. I'm losing the other guard's name off the top of my head. Epps is the other guard they have. But they're a very beatable team here at home. You have to win that game. And then, South Carolina, as long as they don't go 12 for 12 from 3-point range in the first half, that should be a winnable road game for you as well. So I think 2-0 should be the expectation this week, if you really want to try to claw yourself back into this thing.
Glen West, our guest, senior editor over Go 24/7. Let's switch over to football. Since we last spoke, Jordan Seaton pledged to LSU. Now you look at that LSU offensive line. That was a huge question mark on January 2nd. How do you feel about it now?
Much better, and just so much better about the offense, too, and the connective tissue that they have now with not only quarterback, and who your quarterback's going to be, or at least you hope you know who your quarterback's going to be. With Sam Leavitt, you've got your left tackle and Jordan Seaton. You've got your center and Braylon Moore. Those are arguably 3 of the most important positions on the field on offense, and you kind of have an idea of who those guys are going to be. You round it out also with Princewell Umanmielen on the defensive side of the ball. He's your star edge rusher. That's another critical position this defense really needed to figure out. I think all the pieces are there for this team to compete, right at the top of the SEC in year one. But the big question here over the next several months is going to be how long does it take for Sam Leavitt to heal them that injury, because he's obviously going to be the huge domino that's going to have to carry this ship that they've dished out a lot of resources to go get.
What's the expectation level on this team now?
I think it's playoffs. I really do. I think this is a team that you look at and you say, 9 wins is maybe like the bare minimum that they could get to. I think it really is going to come down to whether or not Leavitt is healthy and he's able to stay healthy. And but I love all the pieces that they brought in. They've done a really nice job of bringing in the right guys, I think, to fit the offensive system. I just saw earlier today too that they added another 5-star to their freshman class over at On 3, and so there's just a lot of building momentum and brewing momentum, I think, with this roster right now. It's just going to be about, can they get this collection of talent to be a team? And so that's what the spring's going to be for. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for guys like Hussein Longstreet and Landon Clark to get a lot of reps here with some of these new pieces. And then when Clark gets healthy, or when Leavitt gets healthy, him being able to get with his receivers, get with his running backs, his offensive line, all those guys, to be able to try to figure this thing out in the summer and into the fall camp period is going to be really, really an important time for LSU. So I think the expectations should be very high for this team. They didn't pay Brian Kelly to go away. They didn't bring in Lane Kiffin, and they didn't pour the kind of resources they did into this roster to just be okay, I think, this year. I think that they are not going to be easing into this season. They're going to go full pedal to the metal and try to push for a playoff spot and a playoff run.
Baseball team met with the media on Friday. Did you hear anything you were interested in?
Yeah, I had a question in there about the kind of the returning group of sophomores and just how important it was for that nucleus when they were building this roster to know that they had that returning production. And Jay kind of gave an interesting answer that he doesn't think that he thinks LSU's in a unique position because they've lost a lot of players from last year's championship team, but they also return a lot of, really critical pieces to that championship roster as well. And I think it's a little bit different from 2024, for example, when you lost just so much of that 2023 team and so much of that nucleus that, it was just going to be a little bit harder for that team to kind of come out of the gates and play well right from the start. I think this team's going to have a lot of confidence and a lot of momentum coming out of the gates here, that they have enough of a returning core that has been there and done that and are in the exact same pursuit of a championship. And so I really high on this team. I want to see this pitching come together a little bit more. I'm curious to see, when I get out there for some scrimmages with Casey Evans, with Cooper Moore, what a lot of these pitchers look like here coming off of the winter break. But feel really good about the outfield, feel really good about Kate Aaron-Beatty at catcher, and I think LSU feels really good about what they have to work with on the infield as well. So I think it's going to be another high expectation season for LSU, and I'm excited to see it get rolling here in a few weeks.
Just a few weeks away, as Glenn said. You want to read about baseball, basketball, football, recruiting, you can all go 24/7. Glenn's with us on Tuesdays. Thanks, man.
All right, thanks, Art.
I want to remind you about my friends at Lifetime Roofing. Core values at Lifetime Roofing: customer service, quality, and integrity. They take so much pride in setting themselves apart from other companies. They're involved in the community, doing multiple roof giveaways, BCA awareness, military giveaways. Every single year, they're involved in things like that to help those in need. Another thing that they want you to be sure you're aware of is if you may have an issue with your roof, get it inspected. And a lot of roofing companies know that their biggest payday comes if they do a replacement. But that's not necessarily always the real reason. That's not what you have to do. You may be able to tune your roof up, may be able to just do a repair. And if that's the case, that's what Lifetime Roofing is going to do. If you need a new roof, you need a new roof, and they're happy to help you with that. But maybe it's just a tune-up. Maybe it's just a repair. They can help you with those at Lifetime Roofing. Check them out online at lifetimeroofingla.com. Always tell you every day that they've got a lifetime workmanship warranty over there at Lifetime Roofing. When we close out the hour, Garrett Nussmeier sat down this morning with Jake and Matt off the bench. They were at the Senior Bowl. And I thought some of the things he had to say were pretty enlightening and obviously heartbreaking with what you saw on the field from LSU and from Garrett Nussmeier in his senior year. I touched on it a little bit earlier this week, but now that Garrett Nussmeier's spoken about it, we can talk about it. We'll do that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. HighlandIG.com is the website. Captives. Captives are a big deal in the insurance business right now. If you are a business that pays a sizable amount in premium, that's got great loss control, that's got great loss history, well, maybe a captive's for you. And if your broker has not shown you a captive, maybe your broker doesn't have access to one or doesn't understand the functionality of one. And that may not be doing you a service. The Highland Insurance Group handles captives every day, and they can see if you're a fit. It could be a game changer for the bottom line of your business if you can get into a captive for your insurance program. So if you haven't looked into it, do it now with the Highland Insurance Group. Go to HighlandIG.com, put in your contact information, let them reach out to you. Tell Jonathan Carbo and his team, hey, I heard about this on Hunt's show. What can you tell me about captives? They are happy to help you with that. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Find them online at HighlandIG.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Chat with Sam Spiegelman coming up in 13 minutes. Rivals dropped their final 300 for the class of 2026. I talked about it at the top of the show. LSU well represented in the five-star ranks, three of them, Richard Anderson, Lamar Brown, and then Corey Barber, the wide receiver who flipped from Ole Miss to LSU after Lane Kiffin took the LSU job. So 3 5-stars for LSU on Rivals in a small class, but when you rank them up, LSU's second in average player ranking in a smaller class. So we'll talk to Sam Spiegelman about all that coming up in 12 minutes. Also want to talk about Joe Brady getting that job with the Buffalo Bills. He is the new head coach of the Buffalo Bills. But let's close the hour out talking about Garrett Nussmeier at the Senior Bowl. I told you yesterday that I thought it was a big week for Garrett because his senior year just kind of got screwed up. Like, for lack of a better term, just screwed up. He was hurt. The offensive line was bad. The play calling was bad. The whole situation was toxic. It was just devastating to watch a guy who had poured 5 years into the LSU football program have to be taken off the field in an empty Tiger Stadium against Texas A&M because they couldn't protect him. Like, that's not how it was supposed to end for Garrett. And so he's got a chance after getting a little bit healthier over the last 2 months to go to Mobile and show himself as a healthier version of Garrett Nussmeier. And today he sat down with our morning show with Matt Flynn, Jay Kester. They're there all week. And they talked about how excited he was to get out there. He said he's fully healthy. But he also said that they didn't fully know what was wrong until like a month ago. So December at some point. And they put together a plan to figure it out. That's disappointing, but explains a lot. Garrett also said, and this is a quote, "I couldn't use my core." You think about throwing a football, just like you would think about swinging a baseball bat or swinging a golf club or pitching or any of those circular rotating motions in sport where you need to create torque to swing or launch, and he can't do it. Pretty big deal. And, you know, we heard some murmurs in August, and there was the absolute red flag when they let us. I cannot believe Brian Kelly let us in Tiger Stadium a week before the Clemson game to watch Garrett Nussmeier not throw a football. And I came on here the Monday after and I said, I don't know anything. I'm not a doctor. I've been going to LSU football practice since 2010. That's 15 years. I've never seen a quarterback not throw. And then Kelly said, well, we're just kind of taking it easy. He's on a pitch count. No need to overthrow. It's like, wait a second. Quarterbacks throw all the time. And now I've been to 2 practices in the course of 7 days where the quarterback didn't throw the ball. It was obvious. It was very obvious. It was right in front of our face. And I didn't completely dismiss it, but I didn't really push forward on it. And then you go out there against Clemson, and yeah, the offense didn't look great. And we thought they were just being conservative, trying to help out the offensive line. Clemson's got 2 potential first-rounders. You got Parker over there. You got Woods over there. You can't let those guys get after Nussmeier. Young offensive line. Weston Davis is a redshirt freshman. Tyree Adams never played the position before. Like, okay, they're just throwing a lot of screens, trying to run the ball. The defense played great. This is a championship-level team. And then you go out there against Tech, and the offense stinks again. It's like, okay. And that's when Caldwell got yelled at and the whole deal. And maybe Brian Kelly believed that LSU was spoiled and that you won the game. And maybe Brian Kelly was ticked off or irritated because he knew that the team he had invested the most in, he spent $1 million in the collective, and that he had gotten the most buy-in on to assemble the talent. He's got a good defense, and then his quarterback gets hurt. And Garrett Nussmeier was never the same. His passing yards per game total went down from 311 to 214. It was 100 yards per game. That was not all because of the offensive line. It was not all because of the play callers. It was not all because of wide receiver play. I think the quarterback was significantly hurt. I think he was significantly hurt. And it doesn't matter now to us who cover the program or who are fans of the program. The program's in new hands. There's a ton of excitement. That's all warranted. And we're just going to push forward and look at next year and not dwell on what went wrong in 2025. But the players that were involved in that, Nussmeier, Pyburn, Payton, Hilton, Brown, West Weeks, like these guys who had their eyes on this season, and they were all thinking the same thing we were thinking when they got on that plane to come home from Clemson, like this is going to be really good. And I think a big reason it was not really good was the quarterback was hurt. Garrett's the only one who truly knows how hurt he was. And we'll never have real context for that. And I'm not here to tell you Brian Kelly's out of a job, Joe Sloan's out of a job, Brad Davis is out of a job, LSU's moved on just because Garrett Nussmeier got hurt. There were far greater issues around than just Garrett Nussmeier. There was it was a compilation of a lot of things dumped into one misfortune. But the quarterback getting hurt was a big, big deal. So I hope that Garrett goes out there this week healthy and can rip it. I hope he really wows a couple of NFL teams. I hope he's the third-round pick, gets a chance to make a roster and make an NFL career out of it. I know that he wanted to be the quarterback at LSU his whole life, and he got the opportunity to be that and to come back after a 4,000-yard season and lead a top-5 team, and he was really hurt. And when he says, because he wasn't going to say it during the year, I told y'all this yesterday, he is a boring interview by choice. I don't know that he's a boring guy. He's a boring interview by choice. He just cliches you to death. Football talks you to death. Won't talk about himself. Talks about everybody else. It's a bad interview on purpose. But so he wasn't going to tell you what was wrong or how bad he was hurting. But today he lifted the curtain back a little bit with Matt and Jake, who disarmed him a little bit. And he said, yeah, I couldn't use my core. That's really, really tough to swallow. LSU fans will be just fine. We're on to 2026. You got a coach that just signed the best portal class in the country. He's an incredible offensive mind. The program seems to be in great hands. Blake Baker's back. There's tons of things to be excited about. I'm not trying to take away from any of that. But this was new breaking today. If you want to hear the interview, you can hear it on demand on OTB. I've also got a story up with the written words of it on LouisianaSports.net. But I think anyone can be human and go, man, that is a really tough break. That he was hurt from August all the way through his senior year. Just never got better. That's a bummer. Bummer for LSU, but onward, on to 2026, right? Speaking of 2026, 3 5-stars in the class. Rivals just came out with their new rankings. Sam Spiegelman with Rivals is going to break all that down when we come back after national headlines at Sports Center.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. Swing Easy, GCBR.com. What a place to work on your game. The golf simulator has gorgeous courses like Pebble Beach and Cypress Point and Bethpage Black and TPC Sawgrass and TPC Scottsdale. Even TPC Louisiana's on there. But if you want to go work on your game, you can turn on the driving range feature. You can see the flight path of your ball. You can see your ball speed. You can see where your club impacts the golf ball. Work on hitting drives. Work on hitting wedge shots, long irons, whatever you need to work on, you can do it. I know this time of year, it's really tough. When you walk out of the office, if you work till 5 or 5:15, it's getting dark. It's cold right there, right now. You don't want to go hit balls outside because it's freezing. Well, none of that matters at Swing Easy Golf Club. You're inside on the simulator. So if you want to get your game tuned up for the spring, want to make sure that you're consistently hitting balls on a weekly basis, become a member at Swing Easy Golf Club. They're on Perkins at Seagan. Of course, they're online at swingeasygcbr.com.